I want to spend a little time today talking about the coronavirus, COVID-19. On the 10th of March, 2020, the World Health Organization declared coronavirus to be a global pandemic. Along with it being a pandemic, which is bad enough as it is, some people are trying to take advantage of the rest of us by committing fraud around that particular virus. Here are some things that you need to know about fraud, impersonators, and the coronavirus. Impersonation is one of the key ways that con artists use in order to pretend that they are authorities and that they will then use that pretended authority to try and scam you. We've gotten reports recently of phone calls and emails from the CDC, from Medicare, from the Transportation Safety Administration. All of these have been basically fraud. They've been scams because those agencies will not call you individually. They will send letters and they will notify you that way, or they will have a representative visit your home. In the Medicare fraud, the individuals making the phone call are requesting things such as your Medicare number, your address, other personal identification. Your Social Security number is also being requested, as well as other personal data. If you receive one of these calls, the best thing to do is report the call to the Federal Trade Commission. Federal Trade Commission handles much of the scams and fraud that we see happening in the country, and it would be one central clearinghouse. You could also report the fraud to your state attorney general's office. Some other things about the COVID virus fraud that's taking place. The FTC and the Food and Drug Administration have identified 7 companies that they feel are committing fraud. These are companies that cannot back claims of their products being either cure-alls or at least able to reduce the threat of COVID-19 or the coronavirus. So beware of these 7 companies. You can see them flashed on the screen very shortly. Also, another scam that we found out about just today on the 10th of March, there are people using social media and some of the auction websites to sell fake test kits. People are going to their doctors, going to clinics and asking to be tested for coronavirus. Those test kits have not really gone out to public use at this point, although they're available in state laboratories and at state health authorities. The test kits that are being marketed will not test for coronavirus. They're simply a scam. And quite often the request is for you to send payment and then the kit will be sent to you. People are not receiving the kits that are being promised. Again, there is no readily available kit that is being sold over the internet or at drugstores, so beware of that scam. 'Tis the season. It's a phrase that we hear usually sometime in December, but for me and for educating people on the subject of fraud, 'tis the season really is every season. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, con artists are on the move and they use seasonal approaches. These are scams, fraud that takes place every year at a particular time of year. You can basically set your calendar by the schedule of the con artist. So what are these seasonal scams? Well, we're just about to enter into spring, so let's take a look at some of the spring ones that will be popping up in the next few days. One of them is the ever-present IRS scam. This is a scam where an impersonator will say, I'm an agent of the IRS, and then notify you that you're either under imminent arrest or that you owe a certain amount of money, and if you pay that bill now, you'll avoid the arrest. The IRS does not conduct telephone calls in that way. IRS agents will never threaten people. And the IRS, when it contacts you, does that by first-class mail or by registered letter. So the result is that when you get the call, you're getting called by a scammer. Be aware of that. Discontinue the call as soon as you can. You may want to report that to your state consumer protection agency so that they can track the number of calls, but be aware that there's nothing that can be done in these cases to stop the calls because most of them originate outside the United States. So the IRS scam. One other part of the IRS scam, very shortly, if not already, people are receiving their refunds. And the thing to be watching out for with the IRS scam is somebody calling and saying they want to verify some information in order to be sure that you get the appropriate refund. This verification often asks for you to identify your Social Security number. In no situation will an IRS agent request your Social Security number on the phone or through an email. If you get that request, know that it is definitely a scam, that IRS agents don't contact people if they're going to be getting a refund. That's not done. You receive, again, a letter, and then the refund is given to you according to the way that you had set up the refund should you be receiving one. So beware of the IRS fraud, which is one of those seasonal scams that I said happen every year. Another spring seasonal scam is home improvement. We have a lot of people circulating in New England at this time of year, checking people's homes, looking for things that appear to be in need of repair, and then offering to do repair. Sometimes these individuals will also say things like, I've been working on a job locally and I have some extra materials and I can give you a really good deal if you want to have the siding installed, the roof shingles put in, the driveway repaired. You can name the particular scam. There are several of them and they all involve home improvement. If you're approached by someone, ask for their credentials. Ask them for references, local references, not some other state or some other area. You also want to be able to see their insurance coverage. If they are a legitimate contractor, they will have insurance, and you can check with the insurance company to see if that insurance has been paid. So those are really the big springtime frauds. We'll move into summer. And in summer, we still have that home maintenance fraud that takes place, but we have some other kind of interesting ones. Vacation scams. Summertime is a great vacation time for many people, and obtaining a good deal on a vacation is something everybody likes. What we find happening is that con artists use that opportunity to try and sell people vacations that may even be too good to believe. This comes under that same line that if it's too good to believe, if it's too good to be true, it is. And in this case, when somebody offers you a vacation well under what the market price would normally be, know that it is likely to be a scam. Again, do some background, find out what the company name is, check out the company, call them on a phone number that you know is legitimate, and see if the offer is true. In some cases, it may be a company that's trying to sell timeshares, and as a result, they will say something like, yes, this is true, you get 3 nights and 4 days in one of our resorts, but you have to sit through a sales promotion speech. That's a possibility, but quite often these things are not going to be coming through for you. Another thing to watch out for in the summer scam is the summer rental scams. people end up renting a beautiful cottage on Cape Cod or in some other location for the summer, only to find out that they've made a payment or at least a deposit, and the deposit's disappeared, and they really don't have that rental available to them. So as with other scams, you want to check on that specific offer, see if it's legitimate, and then check with the owner of the property. You can do that very easily. If the property is located in a specific community, go to that community's website and look at the community's grand list. That has to be published by the town, and you can find the name of the property owner and then contact that property owner independently. It's one way to verify whether the rental is really available. Another switch on the rental scam that happens in the summer is that people end up renting their own properties, and they get a response where somebody says, "I'm interested, I'm sending you a check." You receive the check, and the check is in excess of the amount that you requested. You notify the person sending you the check, and that person says, "Oh, just return the extra money to me." Quite often the check will bounce. You've returned money to the person, often as a cashier's check. Check's been cashed, you've lost the money, and the check has bounced, so you end up paying a penalty to your bank. Once again, do a reference check, make sure the individual is legitimate. Don't trust them for all of their references. Trust the community and see if the individual is really someone in their community. We go now to the fall scams, and scams that take place in the fall. We're back to the home maintenance scam. Home maintenance scams in the fall generally are for things like insulation, roofing, and siding. And again, the same story applies. The fake contractor says, "I have some extra materials. This will be a great buy for you. We can do it below cost." And by the way, nobody does things below cost. If they do them at that pricing, they're going to lose money and go out of business. So beware again of the home maintenance scam. Also, fall, autumn time is the season for open enrollment in Medicare Advantage plans and supplemental plans. This is another opportunity for con artists using that Medicare hook to be able to get information from people who are on Medicare. The information they're looking for, addresses, Social Security number, Medicare account numbers. So if somebody calls you, offers you a great deal on a Medicare Advantage plan or on a supplemental plan, don't buy it. Go to a legitimate company that you can check out online, find out the details before you provide any information or make any payments at all. We come down to the final time of the year, and winter. Thank heavens we just finished winter. It wasn't the worst one, but there are some things that we need to be aware of when winter comes around. That would be called a seasonal scam. Number one in the seasonal scams, utility fraud. The individual gets a phone call from their electric company saying they did not pay their electric bill in full, and as a result, their electricity will be shut off at and a particular time is given. It may also be somebody who uses natural gas or oil, and the claim will be that we have law enforcement coming to arrest you, or we have the company retaking their product. Those are illegal actions. Companies won't come in the middle of the night and drain your tank. Electric companies are not going to shut off your power without warning, and in this case it would be a written warning before anything happens. And utilities are forbidden from threatening customers over the phone. So we have this happening, and if you get that call, the best thing to do is simply hang up the phone and report the call. Report it to your utility or your heating substance provider, and report it to your state consumer assistance program. Those are our seasonal scams. We've gone through quite a few of them very quickly, but it gives you a sense of beware, be educated, be prepared, because these scams don't go away. They'll be back next year. They'll be back next season. One of the biggest categories of fraud and scams in America today, what we would refer to as imposter scams. And according to the Vermont Attorney General and several other authorities, including the Federal Trade Commission, the Better Business Bureau, and the Federal Communications Commission, the most frequently used imposter scams are scams impersonating the IRS, Medicare, and Social Security, the three government agencies that impact the lives of most Americans. So we'll take a look at the three big scams in the impersonator category. Our first one is the IRS. We've mentioned the IRS before, and that the IRS does not make individual phone calls to people, but yet a lot of people are receiving calls from folks who claim to be members of the IRS, agents who are trying to collect past due bills. The IRS does not call for that. The IRS will simply send a letter explaining what the problem is and giving you a certain amount of time to be able to respond to them. So when you get a notice from the IRS, it will not be by phone. The other kind of clear indicator that the scammer is on the phone and not an IRS agent is that when it comes around to saying how much money you owe and how to pay it, the scammer will request the payment in usually one of two ways. The first way is by gift card. You'll be instructed to go to Walgreens, Walmart, CVS, some other mass marketer that has gift cards on the rack, and probably be told to grab some Apple iTunes cards or maybe some Amazon cards, fill them in whatever the amount of money is, bring them back, and then read the numbers over the phone to the person who called you. The United States government does not accept gift cards in payment. If it's the IRS that you owe money to, and it's that time of year to pay the IRS, either for the annual tax bill or if you pay an estimate tax, you pay that bill by writing out a check to the United States Treasury. So if you get the request to use a gift card, not going to happen. Also, the IRS doesn't ask you to send the money with a check to the IRS. It will say U.S. Treasury. So that's really what we're seeing with the IRS scam, and that will take place probably for the next 2 to 4 months. Right now, it'll be people about ready to file their taxes, and claims will be that you didn't pay your full tax last year. It'll also be on your refund and saying you need to verify your identity in order to get your refund, and that's simply a ploy to get your Social Security number. The IRS already has that, so they don't need to request it over the phone, and again, they won't use the phone. Our second category of government impersonation is Social Security. The requests have been going out by con artists and scammers asking people to verify their status in Social Security. Sometimes that even comes with you're about to lose your benefit. If you don't renew it, you need to use your Social Security number in order to be sure that you have continuous benefits. Social Security Administration does not use the telephone to notify people. You won't get a call saying your benefits are about to expire, because once you become eligible for Social Security and you file for Social Security at whatever age you do that, whether it's 62, 66, or 70, your benefits are guaranteed by law. You receive an annual printout from the Social Security Administration of what your benefit is. You can also challenge that. Again, notification is sent by mail. It's not a phone call. You don't have to renew your Social Security status. You don't have to worry about it expiring. The third category is Medicare. Most seniors in the United States, at least if you're over the age of 65, you're under a Medicare plan of some sort or a Medicare Advantage plan. This is another area where con artists are playing the role of the agency or your Medicare Advantage provider and trying to do one of two things. One, fishing expedition, which means they're fishing, searching for your personal information, and they will try to get whatever they can. Initially, it'll be Social Security number. It may also be your driver's license, may also be some personal information that would identify you specifically. The second thing that con artists are doing is they're doing the usual thing of the financial scam, and that is asking for payment. Payment for continued benefits, payment for expanded benefits. Medicare, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid will not contact you by telephone and notify you of these things. And in the case of a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medicare supplement, these are offered by other companies, not by the U.S. government. So if somebody says, I'm from the U.S. government or I'm from Medicare and I'm talking to you about a Medicare Advantage or a Medicare supplement plan, they don't. And that is an immediate notification of fraud. If you get one of these fraudulent calls, there are a few things you can do. One is you can contact the agency involved. Social Security, Medicare, the IRS, they all have fraud alert phone numbers, which we're displaying on the screen right now. Other possible notifications could be to your state attorney general's office. These things are tracked by state offices. If there is a specific outbreak of a certain kind of fraud, then the Attorney General's office will issue an alert that goes out statewide. So it's important to let people know that these frauds are being attempted. Without that knowledge, the state and the federal authorities don't really know what's happening, and they rely on your reporting. We know that only a very small portion of the scams and fraud that are out there actually are being reported by people. In fact, the number in the state of Vermont that was reported last year was a little over 3,000, but we know from other sources that in reality they were probably closer to 10 to 15,000 reported cases of fraud or attempted scams. So report it to the agency that's involved, and report it to one of the information gathering agencies as well. A belated Happy New Year to everyone. By now you've written probably a lot of checks. You've probably also dated documents that have come to you that needed both signature and date. And I'm willing to bet that you've done something that you've probably done for the last several years. For example, today happens to be the 10th day of March, and you've most likely dated checks or dated documents this way. You put a 3 followed by a slash, followed by the numeral 10, followed by the numerals 20. So 3, 10, 20. we're trying to get people to know that there's a difference this year from all of the past years. And that difference is that simply putting the digits 20 for the year leave your checks and your documents subject to some form of fraud or misrepresentation. For example, if I receive a check from you that you would like to have cleared and be out of the way in the next couple months, and I receive it and the year is noted as simply 20, and let's say I put that check in my desk and I don't find it for, 7, 8 months. If I take that check and simply add the digit 2 and the digit 1, so now it's 2021, I've extended the lifetime of that check from March 10th of this year to well into next year. Same thing's true with documents. If a document needs to be dated by a certain date, somebody just putting 20 on for the year, it means that that document can be altered to the point that it may not even be a valid document. So for example, somebody writing something that relates to a gift or a donation, and someone wants to block the donation, it's very easy to do it simply by changing the digit, or in this case, just adding the other digits. So what should you do? What should you do with a 2020 date? Well, the best thing is use all 4 digits. Either that, or use the notation a little bit differently, the way many people in the military are used to using it. Start with the day, which in this case would be 10, next with the month, March, and then with the 4-digit year. So today would be 10 March 2020. That makes it very clear, makes it noticeable to everyone, and it's a date that is far more difficult to alter than the other way of writing, which would just be to have the digits 20. We live in a society that chooses expedience over safety and security. And one way that we constantly do this mistake is in the way that we log into accounts online. If you've noticed, many times a particular website may show you the option of, instead of entering a password and ID that you have for that website, you're given the option of using your Facebook or your Twitter login. I urge people not to do that. It is expedient, it's a quick way, and in reality, many people sort of automatically know what their Facebook login is. So it's very easy to do. The problem is when you use that Facebook login to log into another account, somebody can very easily now enter your website that you're trying to get into, your bank's website, a credit card website, or some other specific areas that you check out online. So the best thing to do, use the full password, use the full ID, and log in the correct way instead of using the expedient choice. Now, if you have trouble learning a password or remembering your password after you've learned it, best thing to do, purchase a password manager. These are very inexpensive programs. You actually create one password, which allows you to get into the password vault that's stored on your computer or in a cloud. And you can then go into that and use the passwords for the specific website that has a restricted entrance. Again, try not to use Facebook, try not to use your Twitter account in order to enter other websites. We're coming into mid-March, and that means Easter is just around the corner. And there is an Easter-related scam that we feel everyone needs to be aware of, particularly grandparents. We call this one the Easter Bunny scam. The Easter Bunny scam is pretty simple. Either online through a website or text message or even a phone call, you're offered an opportunity to send a child a letter from the Easter Bunny. That letter from the Easter Bunny also comes with a small gift, and it also comes with a price. We're starting to find that some con artists are becoming very good at pretending to be the Easter Bunny. They market themselves in an attractive way, and particularly online where it's very easy to create a website, they create a very attractive website. People buy the gift package, the letter from the Easter Bunny that's been personalized, and the small gift, but those things are never delivered. The best thing to do, by the way, when you think about this and you think about, boy, it'd be nice for my granddaughter or my child to get a letter from the Easter Bunny, write one yourself. Mail it out from another place. Don't use your handwriting, use someone else's. Put a gift card in with it so there's a small gift. And that way you're being very safe and you're not providing information to someone else. By the way, when the scammer does the Easter Bunny letter, which again they don't send out, but they collect information, they will ask for things like the child's name, the child's age, the child's birth date, and that information is then saved and used for later scams. So protect yourself. Don't buy the Easter Bunny letter. Quite often you can find the Easter Bunny letters being offered by local organizations. Sometimes school clubs will do this. It's very similar to the letter from Santa that we see happening back in December. In this case, it's the same ploy. The only difference is it's the Easter Bunny, and everybody knows the Easter Bunny is a good person or a good animal, and they would never do anything bad. They probably wouldn't, but the folks who are scamming have no problem with it. Did you know that purchasing products online from a legitimate website is a very safe thing to do? In fact, sometimes it's even safer than doing an in-person purchase at a store. There are a couple things that you need to be aware of. One is that every website that is out in the public collecting information, such as credit card numbers, names, and addresses, is subject to a possible breach, which means the information may end up being stolen by somebody, and then identity theft, which would be the use of that information. It's not a likely scenario, but it happens frequently enough to know that most people have had their data compromised. So why am I saying online purchasing is safe? Because, again, it's much safer than almost any other way of making the purchase. There's a recorded receipt. So if there's a problem with the product, it's very easy to have backup to bring that claim to the seller or the merchant. Another reason why it's a safer area is that it's a transaction is taking place between you and the company. There aren't any intermediaries. There aren't any clerks, waitresses, waiters who have possession of your credit card for a period of time. There's one way to maybe ensure a little more safety when you shop online, and that is anytime you shop online, regardless of what the item is, whether it's merchandise through Amazon website or through a store website such as Macy's or Sears or LL Bean, use the same credit card. Sometimes that's not really convenient, and sometimes you want to take advantage of affinity cards. LL Bean is a good example. They have their own credit card. They give you free shipping if you use it on a purchase from them. But again, the safer approach would be for you to use one credit card for all of your online purchases. That way you have control of what's happening online. If there's a breach, you can cancel it. You don't have to worry about 4 or 5 cards, and you are much safer. So use one credit card for online purchases. One of the biggest areas of fraud, as reported by the Vermont Attorney General's office, and based on the number of complaints received by that office, is the unpaid bill scam. This may either be an unpaid bill or an overdue bill payment. A notice is received. It could be by mail. It could be by email. It could also be a phone call. And the letter, call, email claims that you did not pay a particular bill on time, and as a result, you not only owe the bill, but you also owe some fees related to non-payment, and possibly law enforcement agents coming to arrest you. Notification this way of an unpaid bill simply doesn't happen. In the event that you get an unpaid bill, you'll receive official notice from the company that you owe the money to. You'll also have your opportunity before having to pay that bill to contact the company and verify that you did or didn't even have that bill in the first place. Don't use any of the contact information provided by the caller, emailer, or in the letter. Go to that company's website, find out the contact information, and then call that reliable number and ask them about the debt or the bill to see if it's really there. Quite often, con artists will play a game of identifying a bill that never even existed. And your best defense is to identify the company and contact them. Again, as with all cases of fraud, we urge you to report the fraud to the state attorney general's office or to the Federal Trade Commission so that the fraud can be traced if it's happening in the United States, and some kind of penalty can be levied against that company or individual. One scam that's occurring at greater frequency in the past year is what is called the romance scam. In the romance scam, people go online to some of the dating websites or some of the other social media websites and try to strike up friendships with others, either because of loneliness or just the desire to be social. And in these websites, quite often predators are present. The way a predator in a dating website will work is they'll create a false identity using pictures, using information that's simply not true, and try to lure somebody into being interested in them. They'll exchange messages with that person for a period of time, and then almost in every case, the criminal will ask the person to move off site. In other words, leave that dating website or that social media site and go into a private exchange of messages. This becomes very dangerous because where the other vehicles, the dating website and social media, are out in the open, this becomes a private exchange. And in a private exchange, things can be traded that aren't probably the best for an individual. A lot of personal information can be included. Photographs are sent back and forth. And over a period of time, the person who is trying to commit the fraud will endear himself or herself to the victim. When this kind of activity takes place, we also know that at some point the victim will say, maybe we ought to get together. And the criminal will say, well, I can't do that. There'll be a great deal of postponement of any opportunity to meet face to face. And at some point after that, the criminal requests money. It's usually done in a way that says, I'm having some hard times, my car broke down, and I don't have the $3,000 it takes to fix it. Or I have some medical bills for my child and for me based on a car accident, or I just have some medical bills, and as a result, I don't have spare money to go visit you. Can you please send me some money? Person ends up sending money to the criminal. The criminal then delays and again requests more money, and quite often the victim sends more money. The romance scam is not an overnight scam. It's not something that happens today and it's gone. It's quite often a scam that's cultivated over a period of months, 6 months, 8 months, a year, while the criminal endears himself to the victim, and the victim comes more and more under the control of the criminal. The real telltale signs of a romance scam will be the first step, which is taking you off a public website, and the second step, the request for money. These are very easy to break if you have the opportunity, particularly if the criminal's in the United States, because reporting this scam has a greater chance of resolution than most of the other scams. So we urge you again, report a romance scam if you are subject to it. We also know that a lot of the victims of the romance scam will go into a state of denial. They'll send money, and they'll send money again. And when it comes to the realization that the person is simply scamming them, they will not admit to the scam. And that's where family members need to step in and assist that person in realizing what the truth is. So the romance scam, one that we see rising in popularity, and one that is also easier to break than many of the other scams that we see happening. One scam that has developed that isn't in the top 10 at this point, but I would say it's just under the radar screen, is what I would refer to as the pledge scam. In the pledge scam, an individual receives a message, email, text, phone call, or even a letter saying that we're waiting for you to fulfill your pledge. The pledge may be for a small amount, $20. It may be for $50. Quite often, what the con artist is doing is relying on the fact that people's memories sometimes are not the best. And as a result, you may have pledged money for some cause or some organization and then forgotten about it. And you receive that notification that you haven't paid it. The first inclination is write out a check and mail it back. These scams go under the radar. They are scams that most people would not report because, again, people think that they may have made that pledge, and then being honorable themselves, they want to honor the pledge that they made. So beware of the fake pledge. If you receive the notice and it doesn't give you a lot of details, ask for details. Ask for when you made the pledge. Ask for who took the pledge from you. And if you can't get a straight or quick answer on that, then don't respond by sending a check, but report that scam to the appropriate authorities, meaning your state attorney general's office, consumer protection people, or to the Federal Trade Commission. If it comes to you in a letter, and the letter used the U.S. Postal Service, you can report the scam to the U.S. Postal Service inspection people, and they will do their best to try and shut down this particular scam. Sometimes the best steps in preventing yourself from being a victim are steps that are very easy to take. So we're going to look at 3 of those steps right now. The first one, take care when using social media. Don't use social media as your way to tell the world everything about your life, because you are literally telling the world when you post messages on social media. That includes birth dates, travel plans, photographs, details about relationships. Keep that information simple if you want to use social media. Don't reveal plans for travel. And if you do want to share information, create what used to be the old Christmas family letter and send out a letter to those individuals you want to receive it. Consider that the posting on Facebook or other social media is akin to going to Staples or another photocopying business and printing up 10,000 copies of whatever you're writing for social media and then posting on every telephone pole you can find. That's not necessary, and putting your other personal information up in Facebook and other social media is also not necessary. Second protective step, buy a shredder. Most of us recycle a lot of documents, but when you look at those documents, they include account numbers, purchases, personal information. Those things should be shredded. They should not be put in a recycle bag or in the trash where someone who's a dumpster diver would be able to find that information and then either sell it or use it. So buy a shredder. The best kind of shredder is a micro-cut shredder, but as a second best, a cross-cut shredder. In both of those cases, the price runs anywhere from about $49 up to $100 for a very good document shredder. And if the price is too high, go in with family members or neighbors. You can buy it and share it. The machine's not going to break down that quickly, and everybody can use it as much as they need it. Third area that's an easy step to prevent becoming a victim is when you get a statement or an invoice, whether it's a credit card statement, bank statement, Medicare or hospital statement, or insurance statement, check through it. See what's actually been paid or what's been purchased. Look for errors. Look for items that don't appear to be right. And if you find them, report them to that particular agency or company. So if, for example, you receive a bill from your medical insurance company that shows what was purchased, and you find that there are items that you never bought or that you never used, you want to report that to the medical insurance company so that they can investigate. If it's a product or service that shows up on a credit card statement, you want to be able to report that to the company so that they can trace it. And by the way, if you feel that you didn't make the purchase, you can challenge it before you have to pay it. And that can save you some money and a lot of aggravation. So there are 3 easy steps for you to take: the social media care, shredding documents, and checking documents such as statements and invoices. Are you a do not call skeptic? Many people are. And probably the reason why is because you're still receiving dozens and dozens of phone calls that you know are scam calls or robocalls. So let's talk a little bit about the do not call list. Do not call has been around for many years now, since the 1990s, and it has been enhanced for specific purposes, but most people still don't understand what do not call is all about. Do not call was designed to stop legitimate businesses from overusing telephone calls as a way of marketing products or services. So, for example, if I wanted to sell vacations, then I could use a robocall, and this is the old way of doing it. I could use a robocall and make that call to, 500,000 people if I wanted to. What the do not call list allows is for you as a consumer to say, I don't want that call. I want it eliminated. By signing up on the list, the legitimate company is not going to call you. And there's a good reason why. If a company is reported as using either robocalls or making calls to consumers who are on the list for do not call, Federal Trade Commission investigates. In the event of a violation, Federal Trade Commission assesses a fine on those misuse cases. The fine right now can be as high as $41,000 per phone call. One of the higher examples of that violation happened a couple years ago, and it was the Dish Network. They were making calls all over Florida and trying to sell Dish Network connections. Federal Trade Commission sued Dish Network for $280 million. So it does work. And there is a price to pay if a legitimate company violates the do not call list. The problem is that most of the calls that we consider to be annoying calls don't come from legitimate businesses. They come from areas that the do not call list does not address. One area is charities. Charities, nonprofits are exempt from the do not call list. So if I have a charity and I use a Skype type computer calling system, I can make as many calls as I want, and federal authorities are not going to crack down on me as long as I have a registered charity or a registered nonprofit. The other group that, by and large, is exempt from being subject to the do not call list: politicians, political parties, and political candidates. When Congress wrote this law, they specifically exempted those individuals from being subject to the do not call law. So if you're getting an unusual level of political campaign calls at this season and going into the fall, expect them to continue because there is no prohibition. What you may want to do, though, if you keep receiving calls from either specific charities or you receive calls from political candidates, is request that they not call you. Quite often, out of decency, they will do that. They don't want to create bad feelings, particularly politicians, because souring your opinion of them may end up resulting in you being sour to other people about that particular politician. So quite often, politicians or charities will be very good about responding to you if you say, I don't want any more calls. But they're not subject to the do not call list. The third category is also one that creates an annoyance to most people, and it's something that isn't covered by the do not call law, or at least can't be sanctioned through it. And that is when individuals make criminal calls, scam calls, fraud, using robocalls or just straightforward calls. Sadly, most of these calls can't even be traced because they are originating in some country overseas. And the individual who's making the call is not someone who's really afraid of the law. After all, they are committing a crime to start with, or trying to commit a crime. So violating the law on do not call doesn't exactly frighten them and isn't going to deter them. So the three categories: politicians, charities and nonprofits, and criminals. Do not call does not work for it. So what do you do with a fraudulent call that keeps coming? One thing you can do is you can blacklist that phone call through your telephone service provider, or sometimes on your own phone or on your computer. You can also report that call to your phone service provider and ask them to blacklist that from their system. If they get enough requests for that, companies will do that. Lately, all the service providers have been responding to the Federal Trade Commission and the Federal Communications Commission's tightening of the screws on fraudulent calls, and it's starting to work a little bit. Don't expect it to go away, but know that it's getting better. So what do you do, or who can you report to? Well, one thing you can do is you can contact the Do Not Call organization, which is with the Federal Trade Commission. The website is donotcall.gov. You can also call the Do Not Call list. That's 888-382-1222. Now, as I said, Dish Network had a $280 million fine that they were assessed. Also, consumers individually can bring suit against these callers, and you can receive as much as $500 per call in a lawsuit. So be aware of that. Know that there are things you can do to protect yourself from the fraudulent calls. The best step you can take, though, is if you get a call, as soon as you realize that it's a scam or you believe it's a scam, hang up. Better yet, don't answer the phone when the call number does not look like somebody you know.